in the criteria for the CFD. As I mentioned, there's two components to putting this thing together. There's tax A, which is the maintenance portion that pays for the landscaping, that pays for mowing the grass, trimming the trees, and that's the $28 portion of the tax. If we charge $28 to all the parcels in town, that would generate $361,000 the first year. But we only need $288,000 to run the budget, to pay for all the park maintenance, to pay for all the recreation programs. We only need $288,000. So what that says is, we charge $28, we're charging too much. So what would happen the first year is we would drop the levy down to $23. $28 would still be the maximum we could charge, but because we don't need all that money, we would only charge $23. And that is done by the council when they levy the assessment. We cannot charge more than $28, but we can charge less. And that's based upon the need of servicing all the parks within the community. As the park system grows and we get more parks and have more recreation programs, yeah, then park and recreation budget cost is going to go up. So at some point in time, we will need all the $28. But the first year, we don't need that. City's responsible.
Let me go back.
No, it's okay. Tax B. This is B for build. This is when you build. This is the money that will be used to build the new park. There's certain legal things you have to identify when you go through forming a community facilities district. One of those legal things is you have to set limits. What we're adopting is a limit of $5 million for bonding. In other words, a $5 million loan limit at a 12% interest rate. That's the limit. We can never exceed that through the life of this bond program, which is about 40 years, but realistically about 20 years. Well, no, we're not issuing bonds for $5 million. We do not qualify to issue bonds for $5 million, but we have to establish a limit. And no, we are not going out and getting a loan at a 12% interest rate. And if we were selling bonds for $5 million at 12% interest rates, I'd be the first one buying it. Who else is paying 12%? You're not doing it. But you have to establish a limit. So that's the limit over the next 40 years for this program. $5 million maximum would be the amount that we could ever go into debt on this thing at a 12% rate. What do we qualify for right now? It's like you go to buy a house. You fill out all the applications, the forms, they look at your income, your debt ratios. How much do you qualify for? Well, you don't qualify. Well, I don't qualify for the $500,000 house. I qualify for a $190,000 house. Same as the city. City doesn't qualify for $5 million. We currently qualify for $1.9 million. So if this tax goes through, gets approved, and we come back for another meeting and decide about a year later that we want to go out and sell bonds, most bonds we could sell would be $1.9 million worth. What can we do with $1.9 million? We have to spend that on community facilities within the district, which is within the city. Specifically, park facilities. That's what we have to spend the money on. We cannot spend it on whatever we want. It has to be spent on public facilities within the district identified as park facilities. So we would spend $1.9 million. A piece of property has been identified on the east side of town. $1.9 million. You know, when we did Marna, we spent about $500,000 per acre to redo that park. Costs have come down because of the situation that we're in the economy. Between $200,000 to $300,000 per acre. So with $1.9 million, say it's $300,000 per acre, you can develop a 6-acre park. Have a little change left over with $1.9 million. 6 acres of park land over here on the east side would be a nice start to get that system expanded over here. We do not have to ever issue the bonds. If we never issue the bonds, we never charge the $17. We would just stick with the 28 on tax day. And this would never be used, and it just would go away over the 40-year life. If you don't withdraw the monies if you don't issue the debt in a 40-year time period, it's going to drop off and go away. Say we do go ahead and issue the bonds. We do get the loan for $1.9 million. Once we pay that off, it drops off your tax roll. $17 drops off your tax. The city's responsible to the bondholders for repayment. We told the bondholders, people who loaned us the money, we told them that we're going to pay them back. And we're going to pay them back by this $17 a year assessment. If people, and where do we get that? Through the tax rules. If people don't pay their taxes, times are tough. Some folks can't afford to make their tax payments. Some folks are in foreclosure. We understand this. But the city is not going to come and start legal proceedings for a $17 default. There's a lot more different organizations ahead of us with a lot higher debt chasing after repayment than us for $17. The county will have their property taxes that are being defaulted on thousands of dollars. They'll be the ones going after the liens. It's not going to be the city. But we do have responsibility. And built into these things are reserves to cover those situations for a couple of years. So, tax B, that's the build portion, and that's for the new construction of parks here in the community, primarily on the east side. Go ahead. Just to show the two components side by side. Tax A, maintenance of landscape, recreation programs. Never had that feature before. $28 maximum base. Okay, we're going to maximum base. $28 is the maximum. It is subject to change every year by the Consumer Price Index. If the CPI goes up, council, through public hearing, has the opportunity to keep up with the cost of living by raising the $28 by the CPI. And that's because if utility costs go up, if labor costs go up, we need to keep up with those increases also. Tax B, that's strictly for the build of the new parks, where we would issue a bond, we could buy land, build park facilities. The assessment would start approximately after the bonds are issued, and ideally the park would be operational by the time the bonds hit your assessments hit the tax rates. That has a 2% maximum annual growth built into it, and that too is optional to increase every year. Go ahead. So what does this mean? For example, over time, 2011 through 2045, if we had tax A, the maintenance portion, it goes a base of $28, and say and it increased, say CPI was 2%. The second year, it would increase to $28.56. Okay. That would cover the CPI increase if it was 2%. By the year 2045, that $28 would grow to $54.90. That's the maximum it could be. Doesn't have to be levied that amount, but it could not exceed $54.90 for the maintenance portion. If we went ahead and issued bonds, say in the second year of this program, and it was a $17 was the base, and it increased at 2% per year, the second year it would be at $17.34. That would be the increase. And through the life of the program, by the year 2045, that $17 would grow to be $33.33. So in total, what you can see on your tax bill, if the two of these things, if we got all the parks open, we got recreation programs going like crazy through town, we got a new park on the east side and it's open, and there's so much activity, you know, it's just basketball is flying all over through town, we've got so much activity going on. It would cost us $45.90. And that would grow over the next, 35, 40 years to $88.23 per parcel per year. That's how much it would cost. Well, how does that compare what I call the Starbucks index? When I started here about 2 years ago working at the city, the Starbucks right across the parking lot there in Clinton Keith, for a venti coffee, $1.85. The next year, it was $2, down at 15 cents. Now, tonight, $2.15. So, using the Starbucks index, a 15% increase on that cup of coffee over the same time period, my $2.15 per cup of coffee, over 40 years, or 35 years, I'll be paying $7.40 for my venti coffee.
Make it at home.
That's just for one cup. If I had one of these cups per month, over time, that charge would be $88.80 for one cup of coffee per month, per parcel. It's just about the same as what it's costing to keep all the parks open. So the cost of one cup of coffee per month is the same cost of keeping all the parks open. You see these increases, you hear about a $20 base, $17 base, CPIs, 2% inflation. This is what it comes down to, a cup of coffee a month. Okay. Go ahead. What do we do next? Well, we have a public discussion. A lot of questions. We'll make a decision, and if we want to go forward with the item, we'll vote on it on June 7th. Please come report. Available for any questions you may